Welcome to our exploration of a heartbreaking murder case that unfolded in Fuzhou, Fujian Province, China. At the center of this tragic story is Wu Xieyu. Wu Xieyu, an exceptionally talented academic prodigy, was a beacon of brilliance. His academic prowess was likely inherited, as his grandfather was a highly educated man who, amidst the turbulent backdrop of 1949, not only completed his studies, but also successfully passed the entrance exam to Taiwan Normal University, a remarkable feat during those times. However, his fortune turned when he returned to mainland China after the establishment of the People's Republic of China. The Cultural Revolution cast a dark shadow over his life, with his intellectual background becoming a weapon used against him in accusations of espionage. The brutal political climate of the era exacted a heavy toll on him. He endured torture that left him blind and was subsequently imprisoned. Following his release, he was forced to relocate to a rural area in Fuzhou, where he lived in poverty, toiling as a farmer. Eventually, he married a blind woman from the village. In these challenging circumstances, Ka Tianqin, Wu Xieyu's mother, was born and raised. Wu Xieyu's grandfather, after enduring hardship, went on to have 3 more children, a younger daughter and 2 younger sons. Life for a family with 2 blind parents and 4 young children in rural China was unimaginably difficult. As the eldest child, Tianqin took on significant responsibilities from a young age. She cared for her siblings, managed household chores, and worked in the fields daily. Despite their extreme poverty, Wu Xieyu's grandparents remained steadfast in their belief that education could change their children's fate. They understood that knowledge was the only path to lift their family out of despair. Tianqin rose to the occasion, becoming the sole child from her village to pass the entrance exam for secondary school in town. The entire family made substantial sacrifices to support her education. Her younger siblings, facing academic struggles, dropped out of school early to ease the financial burden. In a poignant turn, her youngest brother was even sent to live with another family, carrying the weight of his sister's dreams and the family's hopes. In 1986, Tianqin was admitted to Suzhou Normal University. She not only received a full tuition waiver but also a monthly stipend of 21 yuan. During this time, female college students were a rarity, making her achievement all the more extraordinary given her challenging background. Yet, due to childhood malnutrition, Tianqin stood only 4 feet 11 inches tall. Her family history and past experiences shaped her personality, instilling in her a sense of self-consciousness about her humble origins. Nevertheless, her discipline, determination, and relentless work ethic made her a source of pride as a college student. Carrying the weight of her family's expectations, Ka Tianqin entered Suzhou Normal University in 1986. This remarkable achievement came with a full tuition waiver and a monthly stipend of 21 yuan. At a time when female college students were a rarity, her rise from a poor rural background with a challenging family history was nothing short of exceptional. Yet childhood malnutrition had left her physically small, standing at just 4 feet 11 inches tall. Her upbringing and past experiences shaped her personality, instilling a sense of self-consciousness about her humble origins. Nevertheless, she was disciplined and determined, her relentless work ethic transforming her into a source of pride for her family as she navigated her college years. In a world where distractions like video games and snacking were seen as disasters, the pressure on Xieyu was immense. During the festive Chinese New Year, while other children reveled in the joy of firecrackers, Xieyu was confined indoors to study. Years later, after his arrest, he would candidly reveal that learning did not come naturally to him. It was a dry and tedious process, void of the excitement that his peers experienced. Tianqin's unwavering qualities shaped her life profoundly, leaving an indelible mark on her son, Wu Xieyu. Upon graduating from university, she secured a position as a history teacher at Nanjing High School in Fujian Province. It was shortly after her new role that she encountered Wu Xieyu, an engineer who had also graduated from Fuzhou University. Tall and well-mannered, he worked at a state-owned factory, a stable and promising job for the time. Yet his family background mirrored her own struggles. Wu Xieyu hailed from a poor rural area, a fact that weighed heavily on him. His father had passed away during his childhood, leaving his mother to raise him and his 3 siblings amidst years of hardship. Among them was a younger sister who suffered from mental illness. Some of Tianqin's colleagues warned her against marrying someone from a similar background. cautioning that her life could become even more challenging. Unfazed, she dismissed their warnings. "My parents were both blind. How can I look down on a sister-in-law with a mental illness? As long as we work hard, life will improve," she reasoned. This perspective was not mere optimism, but a profound lesson drawn from her own experiences. It underscored her belief that perseverance could alter one's fate. After 6 months of dating, Tianqin and Wu Xieyu formalized their union, officially settling in Fuzhou, Fujian province. 2 years later, their small family welcomed a new addition, their son, Wu Xieyu. As the sole child of 2 intellectual parents, Wu Xieyu was expected to achieve greatness. He grew up obedient, understanding, and deeply filial, but also exceptionally bright academically. Consistently ranking first in every exam, he amassed so many certificates of merit that they could cover entire walls. His remarkable achievements drew the attention of parents with mischievous children who sought the Wu family's guidance on education. During these visits, Tianqin would often impart her educational philosophy. Parents must be strict with their children's education. Learning is like rowing upstream. If you don't move forward, you'll fall behind. Sometimes parents must act as the rowers, guiding their children forward. She lived by this principle with Wu Xieyu. Unlike many parents who might resort to yelling or scolding, Tianqin employed a unique form of psychological pressure. Her most frequent admonition to her son was, "I endured so much hardship just to receive an education. If you do not study properly, despite having everything you need, it would be a disgrace." Everyday pleasures that other children enjoyed, such as watching cartoons, playing video games, or snacking, were perceived as distractions in her eyes. Even during the Chinese New Year, while other children played with firecrackers outside, Wu Xieyu was confined indoors, diligently studying. Interestingly, years later, after his arrest, he would confess that he did not possess a natural gift for learning. For him, education was a dry and tedious endeavor. The tension in the family escalated when Tianqin harshly scolded Xieyu in front of everyone, branding his behavior as shameful. The reprimand left Xieyu deeply upset and his uncle's family embarrassed, transforming what should have been a joyful reunion dinner into an uncomfortable affair. Tianqin's rigid demeanor extended beyond her immediate family, impacting even her in-laws. On one occasion, Wu Xieyu discreetly sent 20,000 yuan to assist his family in covering medical expenses for his mentally ill sister. Wu Xiaoyu's remarkable achievements and consistent top rankings were not mere coincidences. They were the result of relentless effort, driven by his mother's unwavering mantra, "Diligence overcomes a lack of talent." The influence of Tianqin over her son extended far beyond academics. A classmate from Wu Xiaoyu's middle school recalled a visit to his home, where he was subjected to an intense interrogation by Tianqin. Her questions were relentless, probing deeply into his academic performance. "What were your scores on the monthly exam?" she demanded. "What's your class rank?" After a barrage of inquiries, Tianqin ultimately decided that this boy was unworthy of her son's friendship, leaving him humiliated and prompting an immediate departure. The budding friendship between the two boys was stifled before it could even begin. With a controlling mother and a life consumed by study schedules, Wu Xiaoyu found himself isolated throughout elementary and middle school. He walked to and from school alone, celebrated as a star student by his teachers, yet perceived as a mere bookworm by his peers. Tianqin's obsession with her son's education stemmed from the family's precarious position. During the 1990s, as China underwent economic reform, many of her peers left stable jobs to pursue business opportunities, rapidly accumulating wealth. Yet Tianqin remained steadfast in her belief that academic achievement was the only path to success. She even thwarted her husband, Wu Xieyu, from quitting his stable job to explore entrepreneurship, insisting they cling to the security of their respected positions. As times changed, the once coveted stable jobs began to be seen as stagnant and low-paying. Meanwhile, Tianqin's siblings, despite lacking formal education, were acquiring homes and cars. Although they respected her family's academic accomplishments, Tianqin felt a deep humiliation at having to rely on her siblings for assistance. This tension reached a boiling point during a Lunar New Year gathering, when Wu Xiaoyu, then a middle school student, borrowed his uncle's phone to send New Year greetings to his teacher. Upon witnessing this, Tianqin unleashed a harsh reprimand, branding her son's actions as shameful and causing deep embarrassment for both Wu Xieyu and his uncle's family. What should have been a joyous reunion quickly devolved into an uncomfortable affair. Ka Tianqin's rigidity extended beyond her immediate family, impacting her relationship with her in-laws as well. On one occasion, Wu Jijian secretly sent 20,000 yuan to assist his family with medical expenses for his mentally ill sister. When Ka Tianqin discovered this act of kindness, she erupted in fury, leading to a significant argument with her husband and ultimately severing ties with all of his relatives. In stark contrast to her strong-willed nature, Wu Jijian embodied the qualities of a true gentleman. When Ka Tianqin discovered this act of compassion, she erupted in a fit of rage, igniting a fierce argument with her husband that severed ties with all of his relatives. In stark contrast to his strong-willed wife, Wu Jijian embodied the role of a gentleman, often mediating tensions between her and their son. Over the years, Wu Jijian became a crucial bridge in their strained relationship, defying Ka Tianqin's strict rules to take Xieyu out for fried chicken or to play basketball on the school court. These brief outings became some of the brightest memories in Xieyu's otherwise dark and oppressive childhood. Tragically, those moments of light were insufficient to chase away the shadows that loomed over his life. Everything shifted dramatically when Wu Jijian passed away in 2010. At just 50 years old, he succumbed to liver cancer, leaving a gaping void in Xieyu's heart. The loss was profound. Xieyu once reflected, "My father was proud of me." He recalled the day he placed second in the middle school entrance exam when his father took him to meet his English teacher, beaming with pride as he shared the news. Xieyu remembered that moment as the happiest of his father's life. But just 6 months later, everything changed. Despite Xieyu's subsequent achievement of first place in his midterm exam, he found himself alone, without the one person who would have celebrated this victory with him. The pain of his father's absence was palpable, yet Ka Tianqin's grief appeared subdued, overshadowed by her own rigid expectations. In the wake of loss, Xieyu navigated a world where his father's pride had once illuminated his path, now shrouded in darkness, leaving him to grapple with the emotional aftermath alone. In the wake of his father's passing, Wu Xieyu found himself grappling with a profound sense of loneliness. He had achieved first place in his midterm exam, yet the triumph felt hollow, as there was no one left to share his joy. His father's absence cast a long shadow over what should have been a moment of celebration. Meanwhile, Ka Tianqin, his mother, seemed largely unaffected by her husband's death, displaying little grief in the days that followed. Ka Tianqin turned down a generous donation of 50,000 yen raised by the school to support her and her son. Instead, she chose to send the entire funeral subsidy she received for her husband back to her mother-in-law in their rural hometown. Beyond mere financial decisions, Tianqin also rejected any form of emotional support. She constructed an invisible barrier around herself, isolating from the world outside. Known for her strict demeanor at school, her husband's death pushed her further into a shell of withdrawal. Regardless of the sweltering heat, she cloaked herself in dark, fully covered clothing, deliberately avoiding interactions with male colleagues and students alike. Her smile had vanished, and after work she consistently declined all social activities, leading a life reminiscent of a medieval nun. This complete disconnection from the outside world resulted in a profound loneliness, leaving her friendless and estranged from her family. This isolation would later render her disappearance 6 months later almost unnoticed by Wu Xieyu, who had grown accustomed to his mother's absence. The death of his father not only marked the end of a life but also the loss of a vital mediator, one who could ease the mounting tension between mother and son. As a result, Wu Xieyu now bore the full weight of his mother's crushing expectations, both academically and in everyday life. What once was a quest for approval through high grades transformed into an unyielding obligation. For Ka Tianqin, anything less than first place was a source of shame. The immense pressure from his mother, compounded by the stress of impending college entrance exams, began to erode Xieyu's mental and physical health. He suffered from frequent stomach pains, insomnia, and debilitating dizziness, while large red rashes broke out across his skin. These symptoms haunted him, a stark reminder of his father's fate, leading him to fear he might have inherited a genetic illness. In secret, Wu Xieyu delved into the school computer, searching for information that would haunt him: liver cancer and hereditary diseases. With each click, his terror grew, consuming him. This fear of death spiraled into chronic insomnia, leaving his academic performance in tatters. Tianqin, his mother, sensed the decline but felt powerless to intervene. Their relationship had deteriorated to such an extent that their conversations revolved solely around academics, a hollow exchange that stripped away any semblance of warmth or connection. In 2012, Wu Xieyu achieved a significant milestone by gaining admission to the economics program at Beijing University. To outsiders, this represented a moment of pride and glory for the family. Yet for Wu Xieyu, it was laced with bittersweet regret. Despite his impressive score of 670 on the college entrance exam, ranking him 116th in the province, he fell short of Beijing University's admissions threshold. His acceptance was only secured through additional points from previous competitions, a fact that gnawed at him. Though his score was commendable on a local level, for a student who had always been at the top of his class, heralded as a study genius, this felt like a failure. The exam he had dedicated 12 years to preparing for had marked the beginning of his unraveling. Wu Xieyu's mother, Ka Tianqin, shared in his disappointment. She showed little pride in his achievements, her demeanor betraying her frustration. When colleagues came to congratulate her, she exchanged only perfunctory words before retreating home, shutting the door as if his acceptance was a source of shame. While other students celebrated with yearbook photos and graduation parties, the atmosphere in the Wu household was starkly different, cold and somber, a reflection of unfulfilled expectations. Yet, amid the disappointment, Xieyu felt a flicker of relief. Soon, he would escape his mother's shadow, moving over 600 miles away to Beijing for college. The prospect of distance invigorated him, but Tianqin had no intention of loosening her grip entirely. His roommates at Beijing University noted that Xieyu called his mother daily, often spending at least 40 minutes, sometimes over an hour on the phone. Even the most trivial details, what he ate or what he read, required reporting, keeping him tethered to her expectations. Under her watchful eye, Xieyu maintained a high school routine. He would go to bed at 11 p.m. and rise at 7 o'clock a.m., even on weekends, a discipline that was rare even among the elite students of Beijing University. His academic performance remained stellar. Although the university refrained from publicly ranking students, his peers acknowledged that Xieyu ranked among the top 3 in his class and was within the top 10 of his department. In 2014, during his sophomore year, Wu Xieyu took an international certification exam, placing in the top 5% globally. This remarkable achievement earned him a scholarship from a prestigious training center and an invitation to share his study techniques online, catapulting him to a status admired by both parents and students alike. It seemed inevitable that before graduation, Wu Xieyu would secure admission offers from prestigious institutions like Harvard or Oxford. Yet, life had other plans for him. In his junior year, Beijing University extended an invitation to students, offering the chance to participate in exchange programs abroad for 1 semester. Many of Wu Xieyu's classmates eagerly seized this opportunity, but he remained silent, an unusual choice for the top-performing student. In a moment of introspection, he cited his mother's declining health as the reason for his reluctance to leave her side, earning quiet admiration for his perceived filial devotion. However, the truth was far more complex. Despite the scholarships provided by Beijing University, the cost of a semester overseas loomed large, ranging between 200,000 to 300,000 yuan, approximately $41,000. With Ka Tianqin's modest monthly salary of just over 4,000 yuan, such financial demands were daunting. Wu Xieyu could have opted for less prestigious programs with significantly lower costs, but that choice would have threatened his aspirations of attending a top-tier university, an unacceptable compromise for someone as ambitious as he. Borrowing money from relatives was out of the question, as Ka Tianqin held her dignity in high regard. Thus, Wu Xieyu found himself tethered to Beijing, continuing his studies while grappling with the reality of his situation. The belief his mother had instilled in him, that all professions were inferior and only academic success mattered, began to erode. He pondered the futility of excelling in academics when financial stability felt so far out of reach. A troubling thought crossed his mind. Had his mother not been so prideful? Had she accepted the donations and not sent all of his father's funeral subsidies to his grandmother? Perhaps he would have been sitting in a classroom at Harvard, realizing his dreams. For the first time, Wu Xieyu faced a dilemma that grades and achievements could not resolve. The crushing weight of failure shook his worldview to its core. Yet, he never voiced his discontent to his mother. Their daily phone conversations continued, cloaked in a facade of normalcy. However, by the next semester, when his classmates returned from their time in the United States, they recognized a stark transformation in Wu Xieyu. The diligent student they once knew had morphed into a lethargic shadow of himself, often remaining in bed with the curtains drawn tight, and frequently skipping classes. At this rate, not only did studying abroad slip further from his grasp, but even his graduation from Beijing University hung in the balance. Professors and faculty members attempted to counsel him, offering encouragement, but their efforts fell flat. Wu Xiaoyu's apathy deepened, and he appeared to be spiraling toward self-destruction. In a dark moment of self-reflection, he thought, "If I can't be the best, I might as well be the worst." Then, at the end of the semester, a sudden decision emerged. He submitted a request to move out of the dormitory, explaining, "My father is moving to Beijing for work, and his company has rented an apartment." Despite the growing chasm in their relationship, Wu Xiaoyu never voiced his dissatisfaction to his mother, Ka Tianqin. Their daily phone calls continued as if life remained unchanged. Yet when his classmates returned from the United States the following semester, it was evident to them that Xieyu had undergone a profound transformation. Gone was the diligent student. In his place lay a lethargic figure, often confined to his bed with the curtains drawn tight, skipping classes with increasing frequency. At this disheartening rate, not only was studying abroad slipping from his grasp, but even his graduation from Beijing University grew uncertain. Professors and faculty members attempted to offer counsel and encouragement, yet their efforts were in vain. He spiraled deeper into apathy, heading toward self-destruction. In the dark corridors of his mind, he thought, "If I can't be the best, I might as well be the worst." At the semester's end, in a shocking decision, Xieyu submitted a request to move out of the dormitory, claiming, "My father is moving to Beijing for work, and his company has rented an apartment." In a haunting twist, Wu Xiaoyu claimed he wanted to live with his father, a man who had been gone for over 5 years. This fabrication, perhaps stemming from a deep-seated desire for connection, was transparent and easily disproven. Yet the supervising teacher, unaware of the underlying truth, approved his request without hesitation. By the end of June 2015, Wu Xiaoyu borrowed 1,000 yuan from a roommate, boarding a train that would take him back to Fuzhou. His unexpected return sparked joy in the heart of his mother, Ka Tianqin, who greeted him with open arms, her excitement palpable. Delighted to have her son back, she hurried to prepare a feast, eager to nourish him. But unbeknownst to her, Wu Xiaoyu's return harbored a sinister motive. In a chilling confession, he later revealed that he had come home with the dark intention of taking his mother's life alongside his own. His life felt irrevocably shattered. With academic failure weighing heavily on him, he perceived himself as utterly worthless. The hereditary cancer that had claimed his father loomed over him, a relentless specter of death, threatening to engulf him at any moment. In the depths of his despair, Wu Xiaoyu contemplated a shared fate with his mother. This grim decision was fueled by a haunting conversation they had shared. She had expressed her belief that he was her only hope, stating, "If you're gone, I don't want to live either." Yet, Wu Xiaoyu twisted this sentiment, later asserting that his mother had always been burdened by sorrow and had contemplated ending her own life. He claimed his motive was to liberate her from suffering, suggesting she had willingly embraced death. On July 7, 2015, in a brutal act, Wu Xiaoyu murdered his mother while she was hanging laundry in their courtyard. But was Ka Tianqin's death truly a choice, as her son alleged? The forensic report told a different story, revealing multiple severe injuries to the back of Ka Tianqin's head, concentrated at the base of her skull. The weapon, a dumbbell found at the scene, raised further questions. If her death was voluntary, why were the injuries inflicted from behind? After the horrific act, Wu Xiaoyu abandoned his initial plan of suicide. Instead, he stole over 10,000 yen from his mother's belongings and checked into Fuzhou's largest hotel, a stark contrast to his earlier intentions. There he rented a room and hired a prostitute, an act that starkly contradicted his previous hesitation around women. His mother had always viewed discussions of sexuality as shameful. and Wu Xieyu had prided himself on his restraint. But now he resolved to cast aside his fears and experience life before his anticipated death. As he stepped into this new world, Wu Xieyu discovered a realm of pleasures he had previously shunned. Suddenly, the thought of death no longer held the same grip on him. Over the next 2 days, he indulged in the nightlife of Fuzhou, frequenting bars and nightclubs, fully immersing himself in the vibrant chaos and spending every last cent he had taken from his mother. But as the funds dwindled, reality struck hard. Wu Xieyu was painfully reminded of his mother's lifeless body, still lying in their small apartment. By now, July's oppressive heat had accelerated the decomposition of her corpse, leaving him to grapple with the aftermath of his actions. In a gruesome turn of events, Xieyu found himself confronted with a foul odor that permeated the air. He initially contemplated the horrific act of dismembering the body, seeking to dispose of it elsewhere. However, after making a few incisions, the overwhelming stench and blood overwhelmed him, forcing him to abandon the macabre plan. Stricken with the grim task ahead, Xieyu found himself unable to move his mother's lifeless body. Instead, he resolved to handle the situation right where it lay. Drawing on a dark ingenuity, he recalled the ancient Egyptian practice of mummification. He procured an alarming amount of plastic wrap and activated charcoal online, preparing for a gruesome endeavor. With meticulous care, he wrapped his mother's body layer by layer, placing the activated charcoal between the layers to absorb moisture and mask any foul odors. In total, he applied an extraordinary 75 layers, transforming her remains into a modern-day mummy, a grotesque preservation of what once was. Once the body was concealed, Xieyu took a chilling further step. He purchased a mannequin, wrapping it in plastic and activated charcoal in the same unnerving manner. He placed the mannequin on his bed, covering it with a blanket, creating a bizarre and chilling tableau. One real, one fake, a haunting illusion of normalcy. With his mother hidden away, Xieyu's next move was to weave a web of deception. He forged her handwriting to create a resignation letter addressed to her school. In this letter, he claimed that his admission to the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology had necessitated her acquisition of a visa to accompany him to the United States. The forged resignation was promptly approved, and the school, unaware of the sinister truth, even awarded her an additional 6-month salary. However, this meager sum fell short of Xieyu's extravagant spending needs. Undeterred, he approached the school under the guise of urgency, seeking access to a donation fund that had been promised to him and his mother years prior. Claiming he was in dire need of funds for his imminent studies abroad, Xieyu played on his reputation as a former pride of the school, having recently gained admission to Beijing University. With the principal none the wiser, he instructed the accountant to transfer money to Xieyu, further deepening the layers of his deception. Returning to his hometown, Xieyu continued his charade, borrowing more money from relatives under the same false pretense. He even exploited the trust of his grandmother, who had known his family long before he fled to Canada, playing the role of the devoted grandson while concealing his dark secret. Unbeknownst to the principal, who remained oblivious to the underlying turmoil, he instructed the accountant to transfer money to Wu Xieyu. With this newfound financial support, Wu Xieyu returned to his hometown, skillfully borrowing money from relatives under the guise of necessity. In a calculated move, he even seized the opportunity to take funds from his grandmother, deepening the deception that would soon unravel. In a chilling tale of betrayal, Wu Xieyu, known to many as Xieyu, orchestrated an elaborate scam that drained nearly 1.5 million yuan from family and friends. This deceit included a staggering 560,000 yuan gifted to him by his uncle, who was impressed by Xieyu's academic accomplishments and naively placed his trust in him. In a final act of control, Xieyu took 2 chilling steps. First, he installed a camera in the room where he had hidden his mother's body, linking it to his computer for remote surveillance. Second, he repaid the 1,000 yen he had borrowed from his roommate, an effort to maintain the ruse that everything was normal in his life. For the next 6 months, he obsessively checked the camera feed on his phone. He oscillated between the hope that his mother's remains would never be discovered and a gnawing guilt that haunted him, knowing she could never find peace like others. On February 5, 2016, the weight of his internal torment became unbearable. Wu Xieyu reached out to his uncle with a desperate text message, stating that both he and his mother would return home for the new year. He requested his uncle to meet them at the train station, a seemingly innocent invitation masked beneath a facade of normalcy. Meanwhile, a growing sense of dread enveloped his uncle. After hours of waiting without a word from Wu Xieyu or his mother, Ka Tianqin, he decided to visit their apartment in Fuzhou. When no one answered the door, an unsettling feeling pushed him to call the police. Upon forcing entry, authorities were met with a horror that defied comprehension. It had been 6 long months since Ka Tianqin's murder, and her body had decomposed to such an extent that identification was only possible through DNA testing with her siblings. A meticulous investigation ensued, leading Fuzhou police to identify Wu Xieyu as the prime suspect. A nationwide warrant for his arrest was swiftly issued, awakening his uncle to a chilling truth. Wu Xieyu had never traveled abroad, and the 560,000 yuan he had received was nothing more than an elaborate scam. As the investigation unfolded, the Fuzhou police identified Wu Xieyu as the prime suspect. A nationwide warrant was issued for Xiyu's arrest. It was only then that his uncle realized the horrifying truth, that Xieyu had never gone abroad, and that the 560,000 yuan he had entrusted to him had been a complete scam. For 3 harrowing years, Wu Xieyu remained a fugitive, igniting a wildfire of speculation. Whispers circulated that he had escaped to Southeast Asia, while others claimed he had left a chilling suicide note before plunging into the depths of the sea. However, the truth was far more complex. During his elusive journey, Wu Xieyu traversed numerous provinces and cities across China, including bustling metropolises like Shanghai and Shenzhen. Before his mother's body was uncovered, he even returned to Beijing University, seeking out former classmates to discuss making up for his missed exams. Yet, despite his desperate yearning for a degree, the walls of academia would forever remain closed to him. After being placed on the wanted list, Wu Xieyu surrendered to a life of hedonism, abandoning all pretense of normalcy. His days became a blur of entertainment venues, where he discovered a new obsession: lottery tickets. With reckless abandon, he squandered over 500,000 yuan on gambling, chasing an elusive fortune that ultimately left him empty-handed. It is remarkable to consider that an economics student from Beijing University believed that luck could alter his fate through the lottery. Even if fortune had smiled upon him, claiming a substantial prize would have inevitably drawn the attention of law enforcement. During this tumultuous period, Wu Xieyu also engaged in multiple romantic relationships. At one point, he even proposed to a woman, offering her a bridal gift of 200,000 yuan. Yet, as with many aspects of his life, these relationships unraveled, never realizing the dreams he had envisioned. The drastic transformation in Wu Xieyu's demeanor could be partially attributed to the psychological trauma of murdering his mother. However, the deeper truth lay in his newfound freedom from her oppressive control. Wu Xieyu's descent into chaos was ignited by the unbridled release of his previously repressed desires. Materialism and physical indulgence consumed him, spiraling into a self-destructive abyss. Like a derailed train careening into darkness, his ill-gotten gains, swindled money, had now run dry. Faced with the stark reality of survival, Wu Xieyu turned to desperate measures. Despite having acquired over 10 fake identification cards to evade the law, legitimate employment remained elusive. Companies demanded background checks and social security registration, tools that would easily unveil his true identity. In the end, he sought refuge in jobs with minimal identification requirements, where daily wages were offered, and high turnover meant fewer questions would be asked. In a desperate bid to evade capture, he avoided any actions that might expose his identity, including social security registration. Ultimately, he sought employment in places with lax identification requirements, where daily wages were offered and staff turnover was rampant. In the bustling nightlife of bars and nightclubs, Wu Xieyu's transformation was subtle yet profound. He transitioned from an ordinary customer to a sought-after male host. His colleagues noted that he cultivated a loyal clientele who were drawn to his charisma. Wu Xieyu was more than just a pretty face. He possessed an impressive intellect, able to sing in English, engage in philosophical debates, and discuss the intricacies of both Eastern and Western literature. His knowledge even extended to the stock market and economics, setting him apart in a field dominated by peers with limited education. In the dimly lit atmosphere of the bars, Wu Xieyu's intellectual charm captivated a crowd of wealthy older women who saw in him a rare spark amidst the usual clientele. Little did they know, this young man was more than just a charming host. He was a fugitive, wanted nationwide for murder. While he entertained at night, his days were filled with mundane activities. He visited hair salons, hit the gym, and enjoyed snacks with colleagues. To evade capture, he meticulously switched jobs every few months, always staying one step ahead of the law. Eventually, he sought refuge in Chongqing, a city known for its complex terrain, an ideal hiding place for someone like him. For nearly a year, Wu Xieyu settled into life in Chongqing, even applying for a tutoring position at a private learning center. It seemed he was attempting to start anew, but fate had other plans. On April 21, 2019, his luck ran out at Zhongbei Airport. A newly upgraded facial recognition system identified him with over 98% accuracy, matching his image to a wanted poster. Before he could escape, police apprehended him, sealing his fate. In a chilling confession, Wu Xieyu did not hesitate to admit to the murder of his mother. By May 2019, he faced official charges, and a year later, as his trial commenced, he broke down when reflecting on his father's death. The memories struck him deep, evoking a well of emotion. Yet, when the conversation turned to his mother, his demeanor shifted. He recounted, almost mechanically, that his mother had been a good wife and mother, but his words lacked warmth. He declared, "There is no better mother, no better wife, no better woman in this world than my mother." When questioned about how he knew her bank card PIN, he replied, "My mother never told me, and I never saw her enter it." Wu Xieyu continued, "But I was certain it was my birth date. I didn't need to guess. I just knew she would use it." The court found him guilty of premeditated murder, significant fraud, and the illegal acquisition and use of identification documents. His sentence was death. Upon hearing the verdict, his expression remained inscrutable, betraying no emotion. On January 31, 2024, the Intermediate People's Court of Fuzhou City announced that the death sentence for Wu Xieyu, aged 29, had been executed. This marked the official closure of a 9-year-long case of matricide. A little over a month before his execution, while awaiting the final approval of his death sentence, Wu Xieyu made one last desperate effort, a final attempt to sway the course of fate. In a somber turn of events, he was sentenced to death. When the verdict was announced, Wu Xieyu exhibited no visible emotion. On January 31, 2024, the Intermediate People's Court of Fuzhou City declared that the death sentence for Wu Xieyu, aged 29, had been executed, bringing closure to the 9-year saga of matricide. Just over a month earlier, while awaiting the final approval of his death sentence, Wu Xieyu made one last desperate attempt to alter his fate. In a desperate plea for redemption, Wu Xieyu asked his lawyer to deliver a handwritten letter to his uncle and grandmother. Within its lines, he expressed a fervent desire for forgiveness, convinced that only their compassion could provide him a glimmer of hope for survival. In a bid to negotiate for his life, Wu Xieyu even proposed to transfer ownership of 2 properties he held in Fuzhou, hoping to buy his freedom with money. Yet, his uncle remained steadfast, declaring to the media that he had severed all ties with Wu Xieyu and his lawyer, firmly opposing any deals proposed. As for his grandmother, who had lost her eyesight, she held on to the belief that her daughter and grandson were living happily in the United States. No one had dared to reveal the tragic truth, making the prospect of forgiving Wu Xieyu utterly impossible. Meanwhile, Wu Xieyu's paternal family exhausted every resource they could muster in a desperate attempt to save him. However, on January 31, 2024, the appellate court upheld the death sentence, and the execution was carried out. The story of Wu Xieyu is a profound family tragedy, illustrating the painful intersections of betrayal, greed, and the irrevocable consequences of wrongful actions. Despite his frantic efforts to make amends, ranging from heartfelt apologies to deceitful attempts to evade punishment, nothing could erase the heinous crime he had committed. This case serves as a stark reminder of the devastating effects that a lack of care can inflict. Excessive control or neglect in parenting can result in dire consequences, echoing a warning to society at large. These lessons resonate not just with parents, but with all of society, underscoring the vital importance of nurturing and educating the next generation with compassion and understanding. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in our next video. In a poignant conclusion, the narrative reflects on the vital role of society in nurturing the next generation, with compassion and understanding. The message resonates deeply, urging us all to take part in this essential mission. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your presence in our next exploration.